Welcome to Super Simple Security Principles, where you learn how to think, not just what to do.
I'm Nick Jackson, here to learn along with you from my good buddy, McConnie Mason. We'll do that way.
Yeah.
This is episode 82. So, should I upgrade to Windows 11? Okay, McConnie, I'm going to be real with you. Can I be real with you before we dive into this?
Yeah.
So, we've been doing this for a hot minute. We've been recording for well over a year now.
Yeah. Coming up.
And
Yeah. Yeah.
everything that I've kind of learned so far is make sure you're upgrading to stay safe. Now you bring in this question. It says, should I upgrade to Windows 11? Which felt a little counterintuitive for me at first, because shouldn't we update to the latest, greatest security? And at least according to Windows claims, didn't they make it sound like, hey, this is going to be so much better?
Yeah. I don't know. I haven't listed them a lot, but there certainly are those claims that it's going to
Yeah,
be better. And the thing I would just point out, though, too, is right, like you mentioned, there's security,
yeah,
right? And that's the critical thing is we always want to update to the latest and greatest security, but
yeah,
so much of the time, you can't separate out the new features with versus the new security, so to speak,
oh, okay.
right? And
Okay,
when you're
yeah,
talking,
yeah,
on an operating system level, they do a lot of times now, like we've talked about, have security updates versus other updates. But when you're
yeah.
talking about a brand new, Windows 10 to Windows 11, you can't really say, okay, well, I just want the new security features from Windows 11, but leave everything else the same about Windows 10. It just doesn't work that way.
Gotcha. Okay. Hence the reason for should I upgrade to Windows 11?
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, and this is a follow up. So we talked about in episode 79 the Windows 10 end of life support.
Yeah.
And I know I can't remember exactly the tone, but my knee jerk was I don't really want to upgrade to Windows 11 myself.
Right. Right.
But I'm still like very much on the fence about it. I've looked into it more. I've talked with Cam about it, thought about it. So we're going to dig into that a little bit. But so there, the main focus was just, it's end of life. So there's at least a significant question now of
Yeah.
if you're going to upgrade or not. That's really the thing. But we didn't dig into should you or not.
Right. Right.
And so I will say this at the onset, like if you already have your mind made up, that's fine. Like I'm totally happy with whatever decision you make. I'm not going to try to change your mind. That's not really I'm not going to be like, yeah, you're wrong either way. This is just if you're not sure, I want to
Right.
help out. So
Okay.
sometimes I do want to change your mind. This isn't one of those cases.
This isn't one of those. Okay.
Yeah, and for the most part, really, we can. I'm going to get into some useful details, but uh, the short answer is yes. Just go ahead and upgrade. I think that's my kind of general recommendation for most people,
Okay.
despite
Okay.
my own reluctance. But yeah, we'll get into that too. So, but the main thing, and I'm not sure, I have no idea on the numbers of this, but one of the big questions is if you actually can upgrade.
Right.
Because Windows 11, I don't know how well known this is. It sounds like you've paid a little attention to these things anyway, but there's some hardware requirements.
Right.
And so you may not be able to update.
So if you've got an old computer, there's a chance that you're not gonna be able
Yeah,
to.
and I don't know exactly how old. So there is an app that you can download for free from the Microsoft Store, and I have a link for it in the show notes called the PC Health Check app.
Okay.
That it's a quick, easy download, install you can run, and it will tell you if you can upgrade to Windows 11 or not.
Nice.
So that's the first easy thing. You don't have to try to figure out is it old. You don't have to look things up. Just run that app. It'll tell you.
Yeah.
So, but then my thoughts in terms of there's of course some differences in how it looks. And I don't really have any opinion on that topic. There's the other major factor that I think of for people is whether or not the apps that they run, especially in a corporate environment, if they need to go to Windows 11 for it, or if they need to stay on Windows 10. It could go either way. And of course, the main place, like you alluded to at the beginning, where I have the most to say is relative to security.
Yeah.
So one of the factors is how old is something. So for example, I tend to delay upgrading in general, except for security updates, because typically new features, new products, new releases, when they're shiny new, have a lot of bugs.
Right.
So that's kind of like, mostly I'm like, yes, upgrade, but only security stuff. New features, if you can wait, because usually they're more buggy. So
Okay.
now the good news with Windows 11, it was released in October of 2021. So I mean, it's still Windows, still plenty of bugs, but
Right.
it doesn't have the extra weight of being new for the bugs, at least.
Okay.
And for as far as security changes between Windows 10 and 11, as you know, I'm not like a heavy Windows user. I do use it for gaming regularly, but from what I've read from people, other experts, Windows experts that I trust and rely on to learn about some of these things, they do have some reasonable improvements. It's not like light years improvements, but they're good little upgrades,
Nice.
legitimate ones. Partly, and that's partly related to the hardware thing, because I won't get into it, but anyway, that's part of what the security is related to. Is there's a new hardware security feature that is dependent on. So anyway, but the main thing with security that I want to remind of, and we talked about this in episode 79, is just you should either upgrade to Windows 11 or pay for security updates.
Okay. I remember that. Either upgrade or pay for the security updates. One of the two.
Yeah. And, it doesn't have to be like day one, but I personally would recommend not delaying more than a month before you make that decision.
So make this decision relatively prompt.
Yeah. And you've got a little ways. I'm not sure what day this will air, but end of life is October 14th. So I'd say definitely by Thanksgiving at the latest. That's my recommendation anyway. So.
All right.
So the last point I want to cover on this is this thing that we're now seeing called Copilot Plus PCs.
Yeah.
You've seen that label? I don't know if you've looked
I've seen the label. I haven't paid much attention to it, to be frank.
Yeah. So they'll all be, of course, any Windows machine you buy these days is going to be Windows 11, right?
Yeah.
But some of them, and I don't know exactly what percentage yet, and it probably will eventually just be all of them, but some of them will be Copilot Plus enabled or not. And I don't know, I at least am very wary of all the AI penetrating our operating systems. And when Microsoft's running it, it maximizes my paranoia. I'm not happy about Apple doing it, just to be clear, either, but Microsoft, my least trustworthy when it comes to this stuff, to be frank.
Yeah.
So, and I admit a little bit of bias, but that's just my perspective. So, I don't know, because like there's going to be pushback and you disable the things in the Copilot Plus PCs, but and the reason I bring all this up is because so at some point you're not going to be able to upgrade. Maybe you don't want to upgrade. Maybe you're like, okay, well maybe this is, that laptop's barely, limping along anyway. Maybe it's time to get a new machine. So just something to think about when you do buy. I don't know what the future of AI is going to look like in our operating systems and AI in general, because there's a lot of struggle about it, a lot of security risks, but we're going to be keeping an eye on it. So, and I'm not even saying don't buy a Copilot Plus PC, but it's just something to keep in mind. You're definitely going to have more AI stuff potentially. So if you're worried about that,
Yeah,
that's something to watch out for. So
that makes sense, especially knowing that there's additional security risks involved with that AI.
yeah, that I think is without question. You know, how well we can
Yeah.
mitigate them long term, but again, they're kind of into that whole shiny new category, right? Everybody's racing headlong into AI because it's I mean, it's awesome and it's powerful, right?
Right.
But it's rife with security implications, not to mention the copyright implications and the battle between advertisers, and I can go on forever about that, but it's, you know, we're racing forward, so
Okay.
yeah. So that's those are all the details I have for today. Time for
Awesome.
takeaways.
My takeaway is, yeah, decide what you're gonna do. You know, if you're gonna get security updates, get the security updates. If you're gonna bite that bullet and go to Windows 11, well, bite it, go for it. But if it were me, I'd be super leery of the Copilot. That's my takeaway from today.
Yeah. Well, and the thing is, like, none of the security risks are really very specific to Windows 11 because 10 is bringing in Copilot. I think the Copilot Plus might up it a notch,
Okay.
but I know that's kind of how I portrayed it to you, and it's just that's kind of inevitable. I was trying to kind of have it more balanced because I don't think the AI security risk in Windows 11 is necessarily a reason to avoid upgrading to Windows 11.
Okay.
Yeah, because I mean, admittedly, with it staying in Windows 10, their ability to push it on you because they're not doing new features and stuff is limited. So, from a certain perspective, there is a little more, you know, insulation, so to speak, security from AI penetrating your box. So, I guess it depends on your security level. I don't know. I think there's enough people in this space that are going to be fighting against it that I don't know. I'm still hopeful that despite the craziness of it all and their pushiness of Microsoft and everybody on AI, that somehow we'll find our way to sanity.
Yeah,
Does that make sense?
that makes total sense. That makes
So
total sense.
I don't want to inspire more paranoia and more headache for people than what it's worth. Because at the end of the day, I mean, I'm biased. I don't really want to upgrade, but I might. I'm really dithering. You know, I'm buying my time until October 14th before I make my final decision. But I mean, there's a reason why I'm primarily only game on Windows. Like as a software developer, my needs are different than a lot of people.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
especially my specific kind of software development, Mac is just much better. And so like I'm biased for a lot of reasons. So,
Yeah.
but my general recommendation for, you know, friends and family, people I talk to, people, because I've had, you know, West asked me, other brother asked me the other day, and I said, yeah, and just upgrade to Windows 11.
Okay.
So, okay,
There
that's
you
my
go.
takeaway. Okay,
Nice. That was a good one.
yeah. Are you ready to take action and wondering where to start? Get my Bulletproof My Identity Starter Kit for free. The 7 most vital layers of protection everyone needs. I'll send you one step at a time and help you if you get stuck. Just go to bulletproofmyid.com and enter your name and email, and I will send you the first step. Again, that's bulletproofmyid.com.